We're live.
We're live.
Um,
Gandalf
Gotta
isn't.
start with,
Ooh, too
huh?
soon. Gandalf
What?
isn't.
Oh, yeah, too soon. So the last episode I titled "Everything is Fine," probably, and then because I forgot Gandalf was gonna die in that chapter.
Yeah.
So the title of today's episode is "Reader, Everything Was Not Fine."
Nice. Yes, maintain continuity. Good.
I need to start with some housekeeping because I'm changing hours at work again. It's actually good. So we're changing our coverage hours so that we have more coverage during the middle of the day and people don't get their butts kicked as much, which is very nice. And it means I don't have to work until 11 p.m. I'm going to be working until 8 p.m.
Good. Nice.
Yes. However, I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to podcast after a full day of work right now because we're getting our butts kicked a little bit. So, let's do Sunday and then see how it goes next week and see. There's some days that are lighter than others. Fridays are always really heavy. So maybe we might switch to like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or something. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I can't. Let's see. The tablet is earmarked on Thursdays. Next week it'll be at 10, but after that it should be at 3 for Avi's therapy.
Okay.
So other than that, we're good.
Cool. Well, we would also need to change the time because I'm going to start work at 11.
Oh.
So, and right. I'm not. Yeah.
So are we going to do before work or after? You won't want to do before work.
I don't want to do before work. No. So after work would be better for me.
Okay. Well, we can do late nights. I'm pretty sure we'd get more comments if we did late nights because most of my friends are nocturnal still.
Yeah, I feel like not in the middle of the day, we're probably actually going to get more of a live viewership anyway. So, but just got to figure out what days, or depending on how it goes, I may even need to cut it down to like twice a week. I don't want to, but I just know how tired I am.
Right. That's fair. Another hour of sleep is a precious and wonderful thing. I'm having this strange problem with my other projects where all I want to work on is the elementals. Mm-hmm. Like that's it. I don't want to work on the mermaids. I don't want to work on the karate cubs, although I need to, but I don't want to work on the This Is How We Process book. And it's really strange to be able to focus on one thing because that's never been me. Like I always have 6 projects going as a insurance against me getting bored and wandering off, and that's just not happening anymore. And I'm like, okay, so my brain changed and now I have to readjust.
You know, I would say just go with it, man.
Right? I promised my patrons that I would work on the This Is How We Process, but I only have one patron and she's pretty forgiving. So I think if I go back and say, actually, I'll just give you behind the scenes on the elements, she'll be fine with that. Yeah. I'm making $1 a month. But I don't deserve more right now because I'm so scattershot and I keep making promises I don't keep.
Well, I think I've that
you 4 daily blogs in 4 months.
I think that you deserve the world. And I think anyone who watches this should go and become Robin's patron on Patreon.
Don't expect too much of me. I'm having to readjust my habits to match my brain. But I'm doing my damnedest. And the elemental,
that's important.
Is the coolest thing I may ever be involved in because it's so cool.
It's pretty dang cool.
Fun. Oh my god. Okay. I know I've only got like 5 videos up, but I've got 35 of the elements finished and they are stunning. And now I get to work on some cyberpunk ones, and like half of them are going to be cyberpunk because they're the ones that aren't naturally occurring. They're the ones that are dependent on technology. So I was like,
right. Oh, yeah.
but I've never painted cyberpunk. I get to delve into this massive learning curve with the style of the painting, the details of the painting, and the fucking elements themselves, which I'm no chemist, I'm just learning. It's fantastic. But forget all that because now it's time to be sad.
Oh man. Give me a moment. Let me drink a little more tea first.
Give them a moment for pity's sake.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
It was another moment that Sean Bean brought to the character that didn't exist in the book.
Yep. By nightfall, these hills will be swarming with orcs. All right. For those who want to know.
You have your tea ready? Because the first line of chapter 6 is Aragorn saying, "Alas!
Drink!"
"Alas, I fear we cannot stay here longer," said Aragorn. He looked towards the mountains and held up his sword. "Farewell, Gandalf," he cried. "Did I not say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware?" Yeah, that's how you say goodbye to a friend, is I fucking told you so!
That's exactly what I was going to say. Motherfucker, I told you not to do it.
Alas that I spoke true. What hope have we without you?
Man, I hate it when I'm right.
He turned to the company. "We must do without hope," he said. Good pep talk, guys. "At least we may yet be avenged. Let us gird ourselves and weep no more. Come, we have a long road and much to do."
You know what, Aragorn? Emotional repression is not a healthy way to process grief.
No, he's he does that to Arwen too. Like if you go into the appendices and read the tale of Aragorn and Arwen. So he wins the war, he gets his bride, he lives about another 120 years. And then one morning he's like, "Well, I'm done here." And she's like, "Oh, fuck, already? Like I'm not done. Can we like give it a week, a month? Like can we take a vacation, something, just something?" And he's like, No, this is the day. Don't weep. It's all good. Bye. And then and then he goes and dies. It's like, fuck you.
He's not. He has some emotional processing issues. He's a little repressed.
They rose and looked about them. Northward the dale ran up into a glen of shadows between two great arms of the mountains, above which 3 white peaks were shining. Celebdil, Fanwithal, Caradhras, the mountains of Moria. At the head of the glen, a torrent flowed like a white lace over an endless ladder of short falls, and a mist of foam hung in the air about the mountain's feet. "Yonder is the dim rill stair," said Aragorn, pointing to the falls. "Down the deep cloven way that climbs beside the torrent we should have come, if fortune had been kinder." "Or Caradhras less cruel," said Gimli. "There he stands, smiling in the sun." He shook his fist at the furthest of the snow-capped peaks and turned away. To the east, the outflung arm of the mountains marched to a sudden end, and far lands could be descried beyond them, wide and vague. To the south, the misty mountains receded endlessly as far as sight could reach. Less than a mile away, and a little below them, for they still stood high upon the west side of the dale, there lay a mere. It was long and oval, shaped like a great spearhead thrust deep into the northern glen, but its southern end was beyond the shadows, under the sunlit sky. Yet its waters were dark, a deep blue like clear evening sky seen from a lamp-lit room. Its face was still and unruffled. About it lay a smooth sward shelving down on all sides to its bare, unbroken rim.
It's pronounced sword.
Sword.
I know.
I dwarf is dwarf.
Yeah.
Our mother hated that I pronounced dwarf, and corrected me over and over. So now it's, well, actually, sword is sword. So yeah.
I mean, that used to be the argument, was we would be like, sword isn't pronounced sword. It's
Right.
dwarf. And she'd be like, dwarf. Dwarf. This is one of the ongoing arguments of our childhood. In case
What's
you're
funny?
wondering why we're the way we are.
Guess how Mike Trout pronounces dwarf?
Dwarf?
Dwarf!
Hey!
There lies the Mirror, deep Khaled Zaram, said Gimli sadly. I remember that he said, may you have joy of the sight, but we cannot linger there. Now long shall I journey ere I have joy again. It is I that must hasten away, and he that must remain. The company now went down the road from the gates. It was rough and broken, fading to a winding track between heather and wind that thrust amid the cracking stones. There's a lot of inanimate objects in Middle-earth that thrust.
I mean, we could get Freudian about that, but do we want to? Also, I don't know if I would call a plant an inanimate object.
Less animate, then.
Less animate, I'll accept.
The
They're
Mirror
animate.
was,
They're just
was thrust into the dale, and it's definitely inanimate. And yeah, amid the cracking stones, I love how much movement there is in the stillness. But still, it could be seen that once, long ago, a great paved way had wound upwards from the lowlands of the dwarf kingdom. In places, there were ruined works of stone beside the path, and mounds of green topped with slender birches, or fir trees sighing in the wind. An eastward bend led them hard by the sward of Mirror, and there, not far from the roadside, stood a single column, broken at the top. That is Durin's stone, cried Gimli. I cannot pass without turning aside for a moment to look at the wonder of the dale. Be swift, then, said Aragorn, looking back towards the gates. The sun sinks early. The orcs will not, maybe, come out till after dusk, but we must be far away before nightfall. The moon is almost spent, and it will be dark tonight. Come with me, Frodo, cried the dwarf, springing from the road. I would not have you go without seeing Khaled Zaram. He ran down the long green slope. Frodo followed slowly, drawn by the still blue water in spite of hurt and weariness. Sam came up behind. Beside the standing stone, Gimli halted and looked up. It was cracked and weather-worn, and the faint runes upon its side could not be read. This pillar marks the spot where Durin first looked in the Mirror, said the dwarf. Let us look ourselves once ere we go. They stooped over the dark water. At first they could see nothing. Then slowly they saw the forms of the encircling mountains mirrored in a profound blue, and the peaks were like plumes of white flame above them. Beyond there was a space of sky. There, like jewels sunk in the deep, shone glinting stars, though sunlight was in the sky above. Of their own stooping forms, no shadow could be seen. Oh, Khaled Zaram, fair and wonderful, said Gimli. What is it?
Does Tolkien ever explain what the deal is with Mirror?
Maybe somewhere, but I haven't come across it yet. It's a magical place.
Yeah, like Tahiti.
It stinks. There lies the crown of Durin till he wakes. Farewell. He bowed and turned away and hastened back up the greensward to the road again. What did you see? Said Pippin to Sam, but Sam was too deep in thought to answer. The road now turned south and went quickly downwards, running out from between the arms of the dale. Some way below the mere they came on a deep well of water, clear as crystal, from which a freshet fell over a stone lip and ran glistening and gurgling down a steep rocky channel. "Here is the spring from which the silver lode rises," said Gimli. "Do not drink of it. It is icy cold.
So?
It'll hurt
That
your
sounds
teeth."
nice. Oh, okay. All right, fair.
Yeah, fill your water skins and then wait a while is my advice. "Soon it becomes a swift river, and it gathers water from many other mountain streams," said Aragorn. "Our road leads beside it for many miles, for I shall take you by the road that Gandalf chose, and first I hope to come to the woods where the Silver Lode flows into the great river, out yonder." They looked as he pointed, and before them they could see the stream leaping down to the trough of the valley, and then running on and away into the lower lands, until it was lost in a golden haze. "There lie the woods of Lothlorien," said Legolas. "That is the fairest of all the dwellings of my people. There are no trees like the trees of that land, for in the autumn their leaves fall not, but turn to gold. Not till the spring comes and the new green opens do they fall, and then the boughs are laden with yellow flowers, and the floor of the wood is golden, and golden is the roof, and its pillars are of silver, for the bark of the trees is smooth and grey. So still our songs in Mirkwood say. My heart would be glad if I were beneath the eaves of that wood and it was springtime." "My heart will be glad even in the winter," said Aragorn, "but it lies many miles away. Let us hasten." It's like we're going from your holy land to my holy land, and my holy land hasn't been taken over by Balrogs, so it's a better one.
Well, I mean, Gimli's Holy Land has been taken over by Balrogs because it was so valuable. So there's that. And also, like, the Seven did not remain untarnished.
Yeah, that's the problem right there. And I wonder if, so we're not given like a play-by-play of how Legolas and Gimli went from chilly acquaintances to besties forever. But I wonder if that's a conversation they had. Like, it would be fun to see that written by a fan where Legolas sits down and is like, "This place feeds my soul the way Khazad-dûm was supposed to feed yours, and I can't imagine the heartbreak of coming here and finding it empty and dark."
They have a conversation that's not super dissimilar to that in Two Towers, where they're talking about the caves under
Aglarond, yes.
Yeah.
Helm's
And
Deep.
then how Legolas feels the same about Forrest. That's always where I thought they became friends.
They become friends in Lothlorien. It's mentioned in a sentence, like they're in the same boat because they love each other now somehow.
Sometimes you go from frenemies to best friends to boyfriends. Just happens like that.
And then you sail to the Undying Lands together so that you can spend eternity together because you'll never be tired of each other, and it's beautiful.
Just guys being dudes.
Just
dudes being friends.
Guys. And while we don't see that conversation happen with Legolas, that's one of the reasons Gimli falls for Galadriel, is because she says basically that, like, yeah, we'll get there soon. Hang on. I'm ruining myself. For some time, Frodo and Sam managed to keep up with the others, but Aragorn was leading them at a great pace, and after a while they lagged behind. They had eaten nothing since the early morning. Sam's cut was burning like fire, and his head felt light. In spite of the shining sun, the wind seemed chill after the warm darkness of Moria. He shivered. Frodo felt every step more painful, and he gasped for breath. At last Legolas turned, and seeing them now far behind, he spoke to Aragorn. The others halted, and Aragorn ran back, calling to Boromir to come with him. I am sorry, Frodo, he cried, full of concern. So much has happened this day, and we have such need of haste that I have forgotten that you were hurt, and Sam too. You should have spoken. We have done nothing. We have done nothing to ease you, as we ought, though all the orcs of Moria were after us. Come now, a little further on there is a place where we can rest for a little. There I will do what I can for you. Come, Boromir, we will carry them. Soon afterwards they came upon another stream that ran down from the west and joined its bubbling water with the hurrying Silverlode. Together they plunged over a fall of green-hued stone and foamed down into a dell. About it stood fir trees.
Hello from the other side. Sorry.
About it stood fir trees, short and bent, and its sides were steep and clothed with hart's tongue and shrubs of whortleberry. At the bottom there was a level space through which the stream flowed noisily over shining pebbles. Here they rested. It was now nearly 3 hours after noon, and they had come only a few miles from the gates. Already the sun was westering. While Gimli and the 2 younger hobbits kindled a fire of brush and fir wood and drew water, Aragorn tended Sam and Frodo. Sam's wound was not deep, but it looked ugly, and Aragorn's face was grave as he examined it. After a moment he looked up with relief. Good luck, Sam, he said. Many have received worse than this in payment for the slaying of their first orc. The cut is not poisoned, as the wounds of orc blades too often are. It should heal well when I have tended it. Bathe it when Gimli has heated water. He opened his pouch and drew out some withered leaves. They are dry, and some of their virtue has gone, he said. But here I have still some of the leaves of Athelas that I gathered near Weathertop. Crush one in the water and wash the wound clean, and I will bind it. Now it is your turn, Frodo. I am all right, said Frodo, reluctant to have his garments touched. All I needed was some food and a little rest. No, said Aragorn. We must have a look and see what the hammer and the anvil have done to you. I still marvel that you were alive at all. Gently he stripped off Frodo's old jacket and worn tunic and gave a gasp of wonder. Then he laughed. The silver corselet shimmered before his eyes like the light upon a rippling sea. Carefully he took it off and held it up, and the gems on it glittered like stars, and the sound of the shaken rings was like the tinkle of rain in a pool. Look, my friends, he called. Here's
Hey,
a
maybe
pretty...
Frodo wanted to keep that quiet, bro. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
We've all been through so much. We're all dude bros together. Here's a pretty hobbit skin to wrap an elven princeling in. If it were known that hobbits had such hides, all the hunters of Middle-earth would be riding to the Shire. And all the arrows of all the hunters in the world would be in vain, said Gimli, gazing at the mail in wonder. It is a mithril coat. Mithril? You have never seen or heard tell of one so fair. Is this the coat that Gandalf spoke of? Then he undervalued it, but it was well given. I have often wondered what you and Bilbo were doing so close in his little room, said Merry. Bless the old hobbit. I love him more than ever. I hope we get a chance of telling him about it. There was a dark and blackened bruise on Frodo's right side and breast. Under the mail there was a shirt of soft leather, but at one point the rings had been driven through it into the flesh. Frodo's left... I know, right? Frodo's left side also was scored and bruised where he had been hurled against the wall. While the others set the food ready, Aragorn bathed the hurts with water in which Athelas was steeped. The pungent fragrance filled the dell, and all those who stooped over the steaming water felt refreshed and strengthened. Soon Frodo felt the pain leave him, and his breath grew easy, though he was stiff and sore to the touch for many days. Aragorn bound some soft pads of cloth at his side. "The mail is marvelously light," he said. "Put it on again if you can bear it. My heart is glad to know that you have such a coat. Do not lay it aside, even in sleep. Like you have been. Do what you've been doing."
Do what you've been doing, but not the right thing to do because I told you to do it.
Right. "Unless fortune brings you where you are safe for a while, and that will seldom chance while your quest lasts." When they had eaten, the company got ready to go on. They put out the fire and hid all the traces of it.
Leave no trace camping, Hobbit style.
Nice. Leave no trace. Then, climbing out of the dell, they took to the road again. They had not gone far before the sun sank behind the westward heights, and great shadows crept down the mountainsides. Dusk veiled their feet, and mist rose in the hollows. Away in the east, the evening light lay pale upon the dim lands of distant plain and wood. Sam and Frodo, now feeling eased and greatly refreshed, were able to go at a fair pace, and with only one brief halt, Aragorn led the company on for nearly 3 more hours. It was dark. Deep night had fallen. There were many clear stars, but the fast waning moon would not be seen till late. Gimli and Frodo were at the rear, walking softly and not speaking, listening for any sound upon the road behind. At length Gimli broke the silence. "Not a sound but the wind," he said. "There are no goblins near, or my ears are made of wood." Wood. "It is to be hoped that the orcs will be content with driving us from Moria. And maybe that was all their purpose, and they had nothing else to do with us, with the ring. Though orcs will often pursue foes for many leagues into the plain if they have a fallen captain to avenge." Frodo did not answer. How many orcs would have been stationed across the bridge, like on the outer door? Because the bridge was their defense, their final defense.
Probably not that many. I would think I don't know, 8 or 10.
Right?
Because they're mostly
a day or so to get masonry together to span the gap.
Yeah. Because they're mostly just the door guards were literally just probably there to be like, "Yo, who are you? Oh, you came from Saruman? Okay. Go on in."
Right? And there's no fucking way that there was a second way to the gate. Because
no, I mean that's
the
whole point.
Bridge. Yeah. So
yeah.
That might be why they haven't been captured and eaten already, is because the orcs had to figure out a way to cross the chasm.
I mean, they did still have trolls who could
But that
was a bigger chasm.
But they were short a Balrog.
Indeed they were.
And it said what the gap was. I can't remember what the gap is, but
it was bigger. Yeah, because the one behind them was only I don't know, 10 feet or something, but the one in front of them was definitely more than that.
Exactly. Well, there you go. If anyone wonders why the orcs didn't pursue them right away, we just figured it out.
Yep, because they could have climbed out some windows higher up the slopes, but then they'd be higher up the slopes, so good luck with that, dudes.
Right? They'll just fling themselves over until there's a pile of bodies high enough that people start surviving the fall.
So lemmings.
I'm seeing an army of orcs falling in the ocean.
Look, they don't breed them to be very bright.
Frodo did not answer. He looked at Sting, and the blade was dull. Yet he had heard something, or thought he had. As soon as the shadows had fallen about them and the road behind was dim, he had heard again the quick patter of feet. Even now he heard it. That's a question. How did Gollum cross? Did he wait until the orcs had fashioned a temporary bridge and cross that way, or did he just crawl up onto the ceiling like a cockroach?
I was going to say he can't have waited, because if he had waited until they had a bridge, the orcs would also be behind them.
Mm-hmm.
I think he went along the bottom of the bridge while everyone was distracted by the fight.
Oh, that's a spooky image. Just a little, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Now I want to draw that after I'm done with my current Moria picture.
I want to remind John Howe and Alan Lee that's a thing that must have happened. So they're the pros. Make it so.
Hey, now I can make it so just because I ain't no pro.
We can all do it. Spooky, gross. I love it.
Right. Well, because you know he wouldn't give a shit about the fight. He only cares about the ring. The ring's on the other side, so he's just like, okay.
Yep. I can see it happening. Oh, okay.
Headcanon accepted.
Moving on. As soon as the shadows had fallen about them and the road behind was dim, he had heard again the quick patter of feet. Even now he heard it. He turned swiftly. There were 2 tiny gleams of light behind, or for a moment he thought he saw them, but at once they slipped aside and vanished. "What is it?" said the dwarf. "I don't know," answered Frodo. "I thought I heard feet, and I thought I saw a light, like eyes. I have thought so often since we first entered Moria." Gimli halted and stooped to the ground. "I hear nothing but the night speech of plant and stone," he said. "Come, let us hurry. The others are out of sight. They're kind of crap at being guardians of the ring bearer."
Right? They're just like, oh, he's fine. He's behind it. Oh, wait. I'm like, I wouldn't trust you guys with a 6-year-old in a mall.
No. Yeah, no babysitting duty for you all.
Right. Before you start again, give me 1 second because I'm about to brag about something. So
Me
whilst
too.
we've been talking, I have turned the heel of this sock.
Yay! That looks so freaking difficult.
It's actually not very hard once you know how to do it, but it does look very difficult. So, you know, everyone can be impressed with me if they want.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
The night wind blew chill up the valley to meet them. Before them a wide grey shadow loomed, and they heard an endless rustle of leaves, like poplars in the breeze. "Lothlorien!" cried Legolas. "Lothlorien! We have come to the eaves of the Golden Wood. Alas that it is winter." Under the night, the tree... It's like, we've made it to New Orleans. It's not Mardi Gras. Dang it.
Right? Like, come on, dude. You're still getting beignets. Calm down.
Yeah, the beignets are there. Get yourself some jambalaya and chill out. Under the night, the trees stood tall before them, arched over the road and stream that ran suddenly beneath their spreading boughs. In the dim light of the stars, their stems were grey, and their quivering leaves a hint of fallow gold. "Lothlorien," said Aragorn. "Glad I am to hear again the wind in the trees. We are still little more than 5 leagues from the gates, but we can go no further. Here let us hope that the virtue of the elves will keep us tonight from the peril that comes behind. If elves indeed still dwell here in the darkening world," said Gimli. "It is long since any of my own folk journeyed hither, back to the land whence we wandered in ages long ago," said Legolas. "But we hear that Lorien is not yet deserted. There is a secret power here that holds evil from the land. Nevertheless, its folk are seldom seen, and maybe they dwell now deep in the woods and far from the northern border." "Indeed, deep in the wood they dwell," said Aragorn, and sighed as if some memory stirred in him. "We must fend for ourselves tonight. We will go forward a short way until the trees are all about us, and then we will turn aside from the path and seek a place to rest in." He stepped forward, but Boromir stood irresolute and did not follow. "Is there no other way?" he said. "What other fairer way would you desire?" said Aragorn. "A plain road, though it led through a hedge of swords," said Boromir. "By strange paths has this company been led, and so far to evil fortune. Against my will we passed under the shades of Moria, to our loss. And now we must enter the Golden Wood, you say? But of that perilous land we have heard in Gondor, and it is said that few come out who once go in, and of that few none have escaped unscathed." "Say not unscathed, but if you say unchanged, then maybe you will speak the truth," said Aragorn. "But lore wanes in Gondor, Boromir, if in the city of those who once were wise, they now speak evil of Lothlorien. Believe what you will, there is no other way for us, unless you would go back to Moria Gate, or scale the pathless mountains, or swim the great river all alone." "Then lead on," said Boromir. "But it is perilous." "Perilous indeed," said Aragorn. "Fair and perilous. But only evil need fear it, or those who bring some evil with them, so us."
Yeah. Awkward.
Like, "We don't need to worry unless we're covered in steak." "Oh, you're covered in steak. Damn it." "Follow me." They had gone little more than a mile into the forest when they came upon another stream flowing down swiftly from the tree-clad slopes that climbed back westward toward the mountains. They heard it splashing over a fall away among the shadows on their right. Its dark, hurrying waters ran across the path before them and joined the Silverlode in a swirl of dim pools among the roots of trees. "Here is Nimrodel," said Legolas. "Of this stream the Sylvan elves made many songs long ago, and still we sing them in the north, remembering the rainbow on its falls, and the golden flowers that floated in its foam. Fluff, 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 fluff. All is dark now, and the bridge of Nimrodel is broken down. I will bathe my feet, for it is said that the water is healing to the weary." He went forward and climbed down the deep cloven bank and stepped into the stream. "Follow me," he cried. "The water is not deep. Let us wade across. On the further bank we can rest, and the sound of the falling water may bring us sleep and forgetfulness of grief." One by one they climbed down and followed Legolas. For a moment Frodo stood near the brink and let the water flow over his tired feet. It was cold, but its touch was clean, and as he went on and it mounted to his knees, he felt that the stain of travel and all weariness was washed from his limbs. When all the company had crossed, they sat and rested and ate a little food, and Legolas told them tales of Lothlorien that the elves of Mirkwood still kept in their hearts, of sunlight and starlight upon the meadows by the great river before the world was grey. At length a silence fell, and they heard the music of the waterfall running sweetly in the shadows. Almost Frodo fancied that he could hear a voice singing, mingled with the sound of the water. "Do you hear the voice of Nimrodel?" asked Legolas. "I will sing you a song alert of the maiden Nimrodel who bore the same name as the stream beside which she lived long ago. It is a fair song in our woodland tongue, but this is how it runs in the Westron speech, as some in Rivendell now sing it." In a soft voice, hardly to be heard amid the rustle of the leaves above them, he began. An elven maid there was of old, a shining star by day. Her mantle white was hemmed with gold, her shoes of silver grey. Description, description, she lived by Nimrodel, she fell in love with Amroth. Amroth tried to sail away without her, and then he saw her on the shore, and they both jumped in the water, and they drowned. But from the west has come no word, and on the hither shore no tidings elfin folk have heard of Amroth evermore. There you go.
Well, that was real dumb of Amroth. Just bring her with you, bro. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, he tried, but they had to take the tide or something. He wasn't in charge. Anyway. Oh yeah, the ship was driven by winds they didn't have any control over. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a tragic love story of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 verses. But now at least you know the story. The voice of Legolas faltered and the song ceased. I cannot sing any more, he said. That is but a part, for I have forgotten much. It is long and sad, for it tells how sorrow came upon Lothlorien, Lorien of the Blossom, when the dwarves awakened evil in the mountains. But the dwarves did not make the evil, said Gimli. I said not so, yet evil came, answered Legolas sadly. Then many of the elves of Nimrodel's kindred left their dwellings and departed, and she was lost far in the south, in the passes of the White Mountains, and she came not to the ship where Amroth, her lover, waited for her. But in the spring, when the wind is in the new leaves, the echo of her voice may still be heard by the falls that bear her name. And when the wind is in the south, the voice of Amroth comes up from the sea. For Nimrodel flows into Silverlode that elves call Celebrand, and Celebrand into Anduin the Great, and Anduin flows into the Bay of Belfalas, whence the elves of Lorien set sail. But neither Nimrodel nor Amroth ever came back. It is told that she had a house built in the branches of a tree that grew near the falls, for that was the custom of the elves of Lorien, to dwell in the trees, and maybe it is so still. Therefore they were called the Galadhrim, the tree people. Deep in their forest the trees are very great. The people of the woods did not delve in the ground like dwarves, nor build strong places of stone, before the shadow came. And even in these latter days, dwelling in the trees might be thought safer than sitting on the ground, said Gimli. He looked across the stream to the road that led back to Dimril Dale, and then up into the roof of dark boughs above. Your words bring good counsel, Gimli, said Aragorn. We cannot build a house, but tonight we will do as the Galadhrim and seek refuge in the treetops, if we can. We have sat here beside the road already longer than was wise. The company now turned aside from the path and went into the shadow of the deeper woods, westward along the mountain stream, away from Silverlode. Not far from the falls of Nimrodel they found a cluster of trees, some of which overhung the stream. Their great grey trunks were of mighty girth, but their height could not be guessed. I will climb up, said Legolas. I am at home among trees, by root or bough, though these trees are of a kind strange to me, save as a name in song. Melirn they are called, and are those that bear the yellow blossom, but I have never climbed in one. I will see now what is their shape and way of growth. Whatever it may be, said Pippin, they will be marvellous trees indeed if they can offer any rest at night, except to birds. I cannot sleep on a perch. Then dig a hole in the ground, said Legolas, if that is more after the fashion of your kind. But you must dig straight and deep if you wish to hide from orcs. Go, you little mouse. Dig yourself a little burrow.
Like that was unnecessarily bitchy, Legolas.
He sprang lightly up from the ground and caught a branch that grew from the trunk high above his head. But even as he swung there for a moment, a voice spoke suddenly from the tree shadows above him. "Daro!" it said in a commanding tone, and Legolas dropped back to earth in surprise and fear. He shrank against the bole of the tree. "Stand still," he whispered to the others. "Do not move or speak." There was a sound of soft laughter over their heads, and then another clear voice spoke in an elven tongue. Frodo could understand little of what was said, for the speech that the Sylvan folk east of the mountains used among themselves was unlike that of the west. Legolas looked up and answered in the same language. "Who are they, and what do they say?" asked Merry. "They're elves," said Sam. "Can't you hear their voices?" "Yes, they are elves," said Legolas, "and they say that you breathe so loud that they could shoot you in the dark." Sam hastily put his hand over his mouth. "But they say also that you need have no fear. They have been aware of us for a long while. They heard my voice across the Nimrodel, and knew that I was one of their northern kindred, and therefore they did not hinder our crossing." Name dropping. I'm the reason that they like us. Never mind that Aragorn's been here dozens of times and has
Right? I'm like, Aragorn is dating Galadriel's granddaughter, but yeah, it's because of you, Legolas.
You. So let's not. Yeah, fine. It's up.
I just picture Aragorn in the back, like, sure.
Yeah. And afterwards they heard my song. Now they bid me climb up with Frodo, for they seem to have had some tidings of him and of our journey. The others they ask to wait a little and to keep watch at the foot of the tree until they have decided what is to be done. Out of the shadows a ladder was let down. It was made of rope, silver grey and glimmering in the dark, and though it looked slender, it proved strong enough to bear many men. Legolas ran lightly up, and Frodo followed slowly. Behind came Sam, trying not to breathe loudly. The branches of the Malorn tree grew out nearly straight from the trunk and then swept upward. But near the top, the main stem divided into a crown of many boughs, and among these they found that there had been built a wooden platform, or flet, as such things were called in those days. The elves called it a talan. It was reached by a round hole in the center through which the ladder passed.
It's a treehouse.
It's a treehouse. Or a flet, or a talan, because we have to have 5 words for everything because it's more fun that way. When Frodo came at last up onto the flet, he found Legolas seated with 3 other elves. They were clad in shadowy grey and could not be seen among the tree stems unless they moved suddenly. They stood up, and one of them uncovered a small lamp that gave out a slender silver beam. He held it up, looking at Frodo's face and Sam's. Then he shut off the light again and spoke words of welcome in his elven tongue. Frodo spoke haltingly in return. "Welcome," the elf then said again in the common language, speaking slowly. "We seldom use any tongue but our own, for we dwell now in the heart of the forest and do not willingly have dealings with any other folk. Even our own kindred in the north are sundered from us. But there are some of us still who go abroad for the gathering of news and the watching of our enemies, and they speak the languages of other lands. I am one. Haldir is my name. My brothers, Rumil and Orifin, speak little of your tongue. But we have heard rumors of your coming, for the messengers of Elrond passed by Lorien on their way home up the Dimril Stair. We had not heard of hobbits or halflings for many a long year, and did not know that any yet dwelt in Middle-earth. You do not look evil, and since you come with an elf of our kindred, because we're going to just support that little lie, We are willing to befriend you, as Elrond asked, though it is not our custom to lead strangers through our land. But you must stay here tonight. How many are you? 8, said Legolas. Myself, 4 hobbits, and 2 men, one of whom, Aragorn, is an elf friend of the folk of Westerness. The name of Aragorn, son of Arathorn, is known in Lorien, said Haldir, and he has the favour of the lady. All then is well, but you have yet spoken only of 7. I can math. The 8th is a dwarf, said Legolas. A dwarf, said Haldir. That is not well. We have not had dealings with right? We've not had dealings with the dwarves since the dark days. They are not permitted in our land. I cannot allow him to pass. But he is from the Lonely Mountain, one of Dane's trusty people, and friendly to Elrond, said Frodo. Elrond himself chose him to be one of our companions, and he has been brave and faithful. The elves spoke together in soft voices and questioned Legolas in their own tongue. Very good, said Haldir at last. We will do this, though it is against our liking. If Aragorn and Legolas will guard him and answer for him, he shall pass Jim Crow laws in Lothlorien. Come on, guys. It's bullshit.
They're so racist.
But he must go blindfold through Lothlorien. But now we must debate no longer. Your folk must not remain on the ground. We have been keeping watch on the rivers ever since we saw a great troop of orcs going north toward Moria along the skirts of the mountains many days ago. Wolves are howling on the woods' borders. If you have indeed come from Moria, the peril cannot be far behind. Tomorrow, early, you must go on. The 4 hobbits shall climb up here and stay with us. We do not fear them. There is another Talan in the next tree. There the others must take refuge. You, Legolas, must answer to us for them. Call us if anything is amiss, and have an eye on that dwarf.
Oh, Haldir, why are you such a jerk?
Right? Craig Parker as Haldir did a really good job. Like, granted, they gave him a scene that he doesn't have in the book, but and a death scene at that, which was beautiful. But he did a really good job of being just kind of arrogant, racist bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Until he changed his mind and got a redemption arc and then died of it.
Like you do. Redemption arcs are very frequently fatal.
Yeah. Often. Legolas at once went down the ladder to take Haldir's message. He skipped the dwarf part, as we find out later, because Gimli's like, what the fuck, the next day?
I mean, can you blame him?
Not even remotely. And soon afterwards, Merry and Pippin clambered up onto the high flet. They were out of breath and seemed rather scared. There, said Merry, panting. We have lugged up your blankets as well as our own. Strider has hidden all the rest of our baggage in a deep drift of leaves. You had no need of your burdens, said Haldir. It is cold in the treetops in winter, though the wind tonight is in the south. But we have food and drink to give you that will drive away the night chill. And we have skins and cloaks to spare.
Well, now you tell us.
Yeah. The hobbits accepted this second and far better supper very gladly. Then they wrapped themselves warmly, not only in the fur cloaks of the elves, but in their own blankets as well, and tried to go to sleep. But weary as they were, only Sam found that easy to do. Hobbits do not like heights, and do not sleep upstairs even when they have any stairs. The flet was not at all to their liking as a bedroom. It had no walls, not even a rail. Only on one side was there a light-plated screen which could be moved and fixed in different places according to the wind. Pippin went on talking for a while. I hope if I do go to sleep in this bed loft that I shan't roll off, he said. Once I do get to sleep, said Sam, I shall go on sleeping whether I roll off or no. And the less said, the sooner I'll drop off, if you take my meaning. There's something I wanted to say about the structure of the journey, and we've got a few minutes. It I think like the fourth time I read it, I realized that they're right up until Lothlorien, it's a danger recovery pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're in proportion to each other. So like they were scared in the Shire, they had a night at Crickhollow. They were scared in the Old Forest. They had their 3 days at Bombadil's. They were freaked out by Barrow Wights. And then actually like the peril climbs at that point all the way up to like Barrow Wights and Black Riders in Bree and
Weathertop.
And then they're in Rivendell and they get to spend a solid month in Rivendell recovering from all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the journey, which through Moria is the worst yet, like the Watcher in the Water and blah 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 and orcs and Balrog and death of Gandalf, and that's the biggest shit that they've been through. And then they get the biggest recovery period in Lothlorien, and it's like interval training or something. And after Lothlorien, that pattern just kind of dissipates. Like they're equal to whatever. Sometimes they get recovery and sometimes they don't, but it's not even a thing anymore. And it's like,
well, Lothlorien kind of basically ends out Fellowship, and Two Towers is structured very differently from Fellowship.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too, is like,
and they go
Fellowship is the like low stakes part of the quest where they're like finding their feet, and then Two Towers is like, oh well, we're in the shit now.
Right. And one of the lines in Two Towers is you're flying from deadly peril into deadly peril. They say that more than once. Like, so there's no more now you get to rest and relax and recover and learn your lessons. And even by the end of Fellowship, if you'd taken the characters they are after Lothlorien and dumped them back in the Shire and made them go through all that again, they'd be able to handle. I don't think they'd need Crickhollow or Bombadil or even Rivendell to recover from the shit they go through then, because they've already got like that under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
I like the character growth, even if they're kind of stilted saga-like characters. I like the fact that they get to level up.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. You know, at the beginning, one evil tree is like enough to almost kill them.
Yeah.
And then by Moria, it's 80,000 orcs in a Balrog. Like,
the bosses get bigger.
Exactly.
And I think it's not until we make it to Return of the King, but Pippin joining the Citadel Guard and chatting with Baragond makes me laugh, because I've told you this, but I haven't told them this. It's fucking hilarious to imagine him in his little jerkin talking to this guy who's like, oh, look, a halfling, how cute. And then all of Pippin's stories are like over the top, like Baragond being, the wraiths have been plaguing us, and Pippin being like, oh god, don't tell me about wraiths. They chased my friends and I through our home village, like home country. nearly caught us a few times, stabbed my friend. And Baragon's like, really? Wraiths did that? Oh, yeah. Like, you'd think you'd be more scared of trolls. Oh, we fought trolls. Trolls suck. Yeah, but no, trolls aren't so bad.
Right. My friend, the same friend that I told you about before, Frodo. Yeah, he stabbed a troll in the foot.
He totally did.
Didn't
Yeah.
seem to like that very much.
Where were you when you were stabbing trolls? Oh, Moria, that nightmare place that people threaten their naughty children with. Yeah, we traveled through there. Saw a Balrog. It killed one of us, but he came back. It was great.
He got better.
Like, at some point, you'd think Baragon would be like, okay, you're full of shit.
Oh, he would have to. And also he would think that Frodo wasn't real because all of the stories about Frodo are so ridiculous that he'd be like, oh yeah, your friend.
Your friend got stabbed. He got stabbed, but he was wearing a magical coat, so it only bruised him. Yeah. Yeah, Wraiths on wings are pursuing your friend through God knows what. Like, oh, we wonder sometimes whether Denethor has one of the old Palantirs, and Pippin being like, oh God, Palantirs, that's why I'm here. I looked in one. Got interviewed by Sauron. It fucking sucked. And
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
all right.
Coming. Oh, the Rohirrim are totally coming. I was just there. They're great. The king was polite to me.
Oh, Pippin. All right, I gotta go make breakfast because I gotta go to work.
All right, I love you.
I love you too. I'll see you on Sunday.
And then we'll change up the schedule.
Cool.
Cuidado.
Llamas.